to the latest episode of SaaS Stories. Today I'm joined by Tadej, all the way from Slovenia, the owner of CartBoss, which I'd love to welcome you to the show today, Tadej. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Absolutely. So I always love to start the first question really with your story and your purpose and really the vision behind CartBoss. How did you come up with the idea? What mission are you on? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, sure. So before that, I owned a web development company. We used to work with, we still have it, but I'm not there full time. I used to work with 6 to 8 figure e-com businesses. And one of their problems was abandoned carts. My main job there was to just help try to optimize conversions, see how to optimize the whole business. And one thing that we were talking a lot of times were abandoned carts. The typical solution till that point was just sending out emails. But since the open rate is so small and everything, we were thinking, what we could actually do. The idea was to send either text messages or WhatsApp messages or something like that, but we didn't even know if it's legal, due to the GDPR legislation. But we just had a quick call with one of our lawyers. It was a one-day thing, an idea that came to activation within a day, actually. So we started developing the solution, got it up and running. And I just called one of our clients at the e-commerce business and told him, like, look, would you test this thing out? He tested it out during the weekend. The results were just beyond our expectations because he had, I think, if I remember correctly, a return of investment of somewhere around 1,500%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big...
Well, the number is huge, but we'll get to the average numbers later on. But the thing is that he has a drop shipping business. So the client loyalty there isn't high at all. You usually don't even know where you bought something, but still he got like somewhere around 1,500% return of investment. So at that point we knew, like, okay, we're onto something. Like this is actually like working. We tested it out with connecting it to Google Analytics just to see if the results are really legit. And after we saw that the results are really there and everything is working as it should, and the client is happy with the results, we said, like, okay, let's go full into this. And that's how it started, actually, just like testing it out in real life and seeing that it works.
Amazing. I want to ask you about your journey in what happened after you said, let's go into this. But just before I ask you about that, because that's where a lot of kind of SaaS founders are sitting at the moment. They've got a brilliant idea. They're like, how do we get started? What's the next step? But I'm really fascinated about the abandoned carts first, because before I moved into the world of B2B, I did actually work for a few e-commerce clients. And my biggest question was, why do so many people abandon carts? Do you have any kind of psychology around that? Why they do it? It's such a huge percentage of people's business.
Well, actually, what we found out was that there's two main reasons. The first one is usually they're done on phones because there's a lot of traffic on phones anyways. But so how it goes is that you get to the checkout page and you start writing in your information, like your phone number, email, everything. And then you get to the bottom and you see the final price because you get the dish. Yeah, that's the thing. Because 70% of people that abandon the carts actually enter all of their information. So that's the logic behind it. That's one reason.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And when you get a text message with a 10%, 20% discount or free shipping or something like that, people convert.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, actually. So that's why we're so successful with our solution. The second reason is actually just that just people just try to add stuff in the cart, see how much it would cost them, and then they get random distractions. Honestly, as we were checking stuff out, during how the amount of abandoned carts change during the day, uh, quite a huge percentage is during the work hours.
Ah,
So
okay.
if people shop during their work,
Hmm.
and I suspect that they probably get some distractions during that time, and they just leave the phone there and then get back to it. So those are the two main reasons that I see. I mean, we checked a bunch of articles online, where they say, yeah, if the site doesn't look safe enough, if it doesn't have enough shipping methods, stuff like that. And I mean, I call that bullshit because it's not true. If someone really has the incentive to buy something, he will. So
Hmm.
either this isn't right or the timing isn't right. And with CartBoss, you can actually just like get that fixed, honestly. So
Yeah.
it's like a solution, honestly, to optimize your conversion rates over a long period of time. Because if you see that the shipping, if people prefer free shipping when you get the text message, and if you get offered free shipping, you can actually change your offer on the website and offer just free shipping and just bump up the price for the product. Like that.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, actually. I think I've been there personally, shopping, and then suddenly I see like, $150 for shipping because I've accidentally chosen the wrong country or something. That definitely does deter me as well. So that being the main reason, that makes a lot of sense. The other one, shopping during work hours and then spontaneously maybe called into a work meeting going, oh, I can't finish this right now. Right. So, I mean, brilliant idea. It makes a lot of sense. So you tested it, you spoke to your lawyer, he gave you the green light. Fantastic results for your first test as well. What was the next step for you? How did you then proceed to turn this into a successful business?
Well, expect that people are really, really lazy. So getting the first client to start using our solution was simple because we prepared everything for him.
Yeah.
Connected the sites, done deal. Making a solution that's useful for the masses. I mean, for example, getting someone onboarded that doesn't even know me personally. I didn't call him. We didn't do any business together. Is the difficult part.
Mm.
So realize that a lot of people that we want, I mean, a lot of companies that we want to get onboarded sell across multiple countries. The
Yeah.
difficulty is that if you sell in multiple countries, you need to have the text messages that you're sending out. You have to have them in different languages. And people didn't want to, think of the text messages, get them translated, test them out if they really work, check if the translations are really solid. So what we did was we optimized the process. We prepared the text messages up front. We tested, we translated different text messages into all the languages needed. We prepared simple integration steps. Like it's honestly like just one click and you're done. So the simplicity of just connecting your site, the simplicity of using our solution is key to onboarding new clients. So those were our next steps. And
Mhm.
after that, it's just finding the channel for communicating with new clients. The ones that you want to get.
Yeah.
And that's the difficult part.
Okay. Practically following the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid, which I think that's where, I mean, working in B2B SaaS, I do see that's where a lot of companies go wrong. That's where scaling sort of gets stagnant, is when they overcomplicate the product and you'll sign up for the free trial or whatever it is that the business offers. But then if the users can't use it on their own and it's not simple, and maybe they need someone within the company to help them use it, I think that's where it goes wrong if you make it really hard for access and usability. So yeah, I think that's a really good and critical step towards building something that would work. Having said that, not every business, business is never without its hurdles. So any particular challenges that you remember facing in the early days?
Well, it actually relates to what you were saying previously. So, when you develop the system and you're in it all day, every day, all the time, you really understand the whole system, and you think to yourself, it's so simple. You have to be retarded not to mess things up. Until this day, I still think that our solution is really, really simple to use. But you get people that still don't find their way around it. Maybe they just don't take the time to work to check what features it has. I don't know, but so that's one of the things, just having it constantly upgraded with new, easier ways to connect your sites or to do this and that within the system. So that's one kernel, of course. The second one is the amount of text messages that was being sent. So we're sending like a ton of text messages on a daily basis. So we had to have the system developed in a way that it's really, really scalable. Like we can be sending, for example, 100 text messages one day and the other day 500,000 text messages. So that's a huge difference. So the system has to be really stable the whole time. And of course, then there is the legislation part, which is on the. In essence, it's simple, but then when you go into the details, you can see that I think in California, you can only send one text message per 24 hours and stuff like that. So you need to go deeper and deeper into all of the tiny nooks and crannies, I think it's the word.
Yeah.
So that takes a lot of time, and you need to be really well organized, which in the beginning it takes more time, but later down the road, all of the preparations and everything, it has its benefits. So we prepared for example, when we started onboarding more people into the company, because we had all the emails already pre-prepared, a lot of documentation, which took us like nights to prepare.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning it was just a two-man band. So when you expand, if you have well-established fundamentals, it's a lot easier. But if you don't have that prepared, I do not know how to survive. Yeah.
Take me more through the fundamentals you just mentioned. What should we have prepared? What are these fundamentals that you speak of?
I mean, I didn't read a lot of books and I don't have any education in business. So this is just my personal take on it. So what I did was each time when we had an email for the support team or something, we prepared an email and we prepared it as a template so that when we got new people onboarded in the company, they had all the emails there prepared and they could just check which email would suit them best. And that way I wouldn't get too many questions from their side. We also have those frequently asked questions prepared up front, but in a really large scale, like including videos, including images, like the whole way. So that's one thing. The other thing is organization, like just contact us at this and this specific hours, including for the support team, including for this and for everything, like so that I can focus on the business side, developers can focus on the development side. I don't bother them during the specific hour, like stuff like that. Also accounting, we talked to the accounting, look, we're going to be sending out this and this much text messages in this country. I mean, we're going to have clients from those countries and these countries. We're going to be exceeding the tax threshold. Please be prepared for that so that we don't get a problem at the end of the year. At the end of the year, we've got the most amount of business and the most amount of emails from the support. So I really like to focus on the business side, not on, I mean, on the support side for the customers. Those are the most important people. So yeah, then just automating as much stuff as possible, emails, communication, everything.
It sounds like you had your processes and your systems down pat, which is, I think, really helps a lot. Everything's documented. Every new person that starts at the company, they have, a wealth of reading to do, and then they're just kind of onboarded a lot quicker than what it can normally take sometimes. I know a lot of businesses do struggle with this. They kind of get busy. Founders, you just mentioned, sometimes get thrown back into the trenches, so they don't have time to work on the business as well. So but yeah, I think you make a good point. I think following processes and systems, it can never go wrong, really, because it just helps you then every time you make a hire, just get that person up to speed quicker. Speaking of hires, I'm curious, having hired, a few people in your team, and, just going through the scaling and the growing, who was your first hire, and would you make that first hire again if you had the chance to go back, or would it be a different person?
I have no idea who was the first person that was hired. I think well, I hope the person that was the first that was hired isn't listening to this podcast. I'm so sorry if you're listening. I think it was another developer, actually,
Mhm.
was hired first. Because, like when you have a SaaS business, you try to add new features constantly. And if there's, I mean, me and Damian, we're both co-founders. I'm the marketing aspect. Damian is the development aspect.
Yeah.
At some point, it came to the point that like he could not work more. And again, working 8 hours as a developer is quite a lot. So, and he was more. He was working later at night as well. So that wasn't healthy. So we needed to get more help. So the first logical step was adding a new developer to the team so that we could expand as fast as possible. So adding new features, I think, for a SaaS company is critical because
Yeah.
we used to get daily emails almost like, hey, could you add this feature and could you add this feature as well? And those features were the same, it wasn't like that there were 10 different features requested in 1 week. It was a few specific features that stood out. And we just had to get them developed and had them developed as fast as possible. But later on, you can see down the timeline that those new feature requests started slowing down, and we could focus on adding the expansions that we wanted to, but not at first. I strongly believe that you need to listen to your customers first, their requests, and not just have your own timeline and say like, fuck you. No, this is our timeline. We're going to do it this way. I think it's critical to listen to your customers.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think I have read the Spam Act a number of times. It never fails to put me to sleep. It's quite a riveting long read. So I know my first hire definitely would have been, someone with the legal skills to get through that. But I agree. I think most SaaS companies do look towards developers unless the founder is like a developer themselves. I do find that they then maybe hire people with complementary skills. One thing I'm really curious about is I know a lot of SaaS companies would maybe get the product to an MVP level where it's just, just good enough to kind of roll out. And then they would start hiring a lot of salespeople instead of developers to help with the features and the product. What do you think about that strategy?
I mean, doing the MVP first is how we do it as well. I mean, especially with the features that are not requested by our customers, but that are just in our heads that we believe that is vital to the business. We just do a MVP, test it out to see if people like to use it. I mean, would like to use it. And if that's the case, then we start developing a really solid foundation for that.
Yeah.
In regards to adding a bunch of marketers, I think it's a slippery slope, honestly, because they need to perform. And with a SaaS business, you can talk to one client, for example, for 2 months straight, and he still isn't ready. Like, for example, we were talking to this company from Europe, I think for almost 4 months. One of our marketing guys was talking to them, and everything was going good. The communication was good, but after 4 months or something like that, they say like, yeah, but we're gonna wait with this right now. What I want to say is that the return of investment for a marketing person might not show within 2 or 3 months, and that's if you don't have stuff under control, if you don't track how he's performing and everything, that might be a problem. So adding a lot of marketing people to the team in the beginning, I think, is not a good way to go about it. It's better to have one or two that are really dedicated to the company, that work side by side, so that you really find the marketing channels that work. And when you have an established way of getting new clients, then you can easily add new people in the marketing sphere. But you need to be there. You won't get any results if you hire 10 marketing people at once, because you're just gonna lose a bunch of money.
No, I mean, I am a marketer and I completely agree with you on that one. I think one is more than enough for us, a startup, for example. I think they say there's like some key roles that you need to recruit in the early days. One is your financial person, one is your legal person, which sounds like you had those. One is your technical person. You, of course, have the CEO that's kind of spreading the message and talking about the value proposition and the mission that the company's on. So each person has a completely different role. And I think, where you kind of get the most value in scaling, that's probably where you start to build out that team first.
Yep.
Now that you've gotten to this stage in your business, what does a typical day look like for you in a fast-growing SaaS company?
Oh shit! What we do is we have daily meetings at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's an urgent thing, even if
Team meetings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every morning at 9 o'clock, we have a team meeting with the main characters in the company. Usually the meeting, a lot of times the meetings are any new information? No. Okay. So, well, we think let's go on. Because there's nothing special going on a typical daily basis. But then, I have the financial aspect of the company. And the day-to-day business regarding marketing. So what are the next steps, how stuff are performing, stuff like that. And things with Damian, with the co-founder, just to see like what new features we would like to add, like what are the hurdles in the marketing team, what are the problems with the development team. Because the thing is, I think that marketing should strongly relate to development.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to clients, they tell you, hey, we're missing this and this feature, or hey, we really want to change things up a bit here with a specific country where we're sending out text messages, but we didn't see how we could change this to just send specific text messages to this country. And if the marketing team doesn't explain this stuff to the development team, they're just not going to know what the clients are missing. So I try to connect the marketing team with the development team to optimize everything or add new features. And that's actually my main daily task, just talking to
Yeah.
the marketing and talking with the development team and finding stuff together.
I think
That's
that's
it.
really good advice, actually. You know, a lot of people keep the team separate. I've come across a lot of organizations where even sales and marketing don't sit in the same department or in the same office building, which to me is just mind blowing. But having the 9 a.m. meetings, it just sounds like you really just set the tone for that day. Like, what's important? What are we working on today? Okay, let's get going. And then you're just in focus mode, getting, you know, ticking off those goals and tasks. So I think that's pretty clever.
The thing is, we're all remote. We don't
Yeah,
have an office. I prefer working from home. Damian prefers working from home. Everybody prefers working from home. But
yeah,
if you start at clock and have a meeting regarding CartBoss, it works out. People get into the mode. So yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of people are remote, and I mean, personally, we had an office here in Manly, in sunny Manly Beach in Australia, and you know, COVID, of course, made us all remote. And now a lot of the people that we work with, that we've employed, they're actually based, you know, some of them are in the UK, some of them are in New Zealand, some of them are across states in Australia. So even though we have the office back, you don't really get the whole team in the office. You can't. It's impossible unless, you know, you're paying for everyone's flight every morning, which still wouldn't work. But yeah, I think this new way we've kind of had to discover how to communicate better without being in the office together. So yeah, I think a lot of companies have managed to make it work pretty well.
Yeah,
What's the next big thing for your team? What upcoming features or expansions are exciting you at the moment that your team is working on?
So one thing that we're doing is we're sending out mass text messages. It can be a huge problem for companies because the results tend to be return of investment positive at best. Because if you send out just a bunch of text messages to people that bought something from your online store 3 months ago, they're not going to know where they got the text message from. I mean, they don't know you. So what we're currently developing is a mass sending solution, but a really optimized process. So in a way that we delete the phone messages up front if they're not legit. We check the data, how many times they bought from your site, to give them a rating per se, and then give you the option to choose, like, hey, do you want to send the text messages really to the top 10% or top 50%, or who do you want to send it to? And that way we can optimize your results, because that's where what we're focusing on all the time, just optimizing the results for the online businesses.
Yeah.
So we've been working on this for the past 6-7 months or something like that. So that's our main goal here currently. Other than that, just adding, the additional support for other platforms. Currently, we support WooCommerce, Shopify, and custom platforms, but we
Yeah.
really want to add new platforms. But it's easy to add a new platform. Don't get me wrong; it's not a problem adding I don't know, like PrestaShop or stuff like that, Magento. But if you want to make it work perfect, then you have a problem, because you need to actually have almost a developer per 2 to 3 platforms.
Right.
Because yeah, there's new updates. For example, Shopify has constantly new features or updates, especially
Yeah.
for the checkout. So you need to constantly update the app as well. So yeah, those are the main aspects that we're focusing on here.
Do you see this working outside of e-commerce? Like maybe, I mean, as more millennials and Generation Z enter the workforce and become the main decision makers in the workplace. And, they're very much happy with SMS as a channel. Do you see this expanding into the world of business to business as well?
I think that that's not as healthy as one would want, because with email, you just have your emails turned off and you don't receive any notifications. With text messages, you constantly, when you get a text message, you open it immediately, you see it. So I don't think that's the best way to just send text messages for everything, because that way you actually diminish the value of text messages. For example, like before we had email, I mean, we still have emails, but with emails, what started happening is that you don't check them, they get into spam or promotion folders and stuff like that. So SMS is the next evolution in emails. But if you start using SMS for everything, what's going to happen is people are just not going to check the text messages. People are going to put you in, spam folders are going to come eventually anyways, I think. So maybe just as, I don't know, for example, if you have a meeting that you get a text message, hey, you're going to get a meeting, you're having a meeting soon, but we have push notifications for that. So I don't think that text messages are going to expand drastically. I mean, to a certain degree, of course, they will. Some notifications perhaps, or for example, I get a notification every time I buy something with a credit card. I get a notification, hey, you bought something with a credit card. That's a good thing. But getting a notification with a text message, hey, you're 5 minutes late to a meeting, I don't think.
No, I agree. I think, you have to really personalize them and really use them in a way that adds value. I mean, in the world of B2B, the best place I've seen them is really when events are happening and people just need to get reminders that the event's tonight. Maybe you want to update them on some parking details, just make the journey easier for them. But I'm always curious about new ways, to do business as well. So, I just wanted your advice on that. Is there anything we haven't touched on today? Any kind of advice that you would like to share with other SaaS founders?
I don't know, like don't listen to a lot of, don't, each SaaS business is specific. So try to understand what your business is, why your business is so specific. Because what you could do is you could advertise on Facebook your business. But for example, our company wasn't successful with Facebook advertising. Maybe another one would be. So just try to test out different marketing channels as fast as possible and try to compare the results. So I think that's the best advice I can give. And think with your own head as much as possible, because it's difficult to get your way in to get new clients. And then when you get new clients, just talk to them, talk to the existing clients, see what converted, what had made them change their mind, or why they choose to work with you, use your solution, and go from there. Because you can literally, for example, when we started, we talked to our clients, and based on what they said, we started implementing in our marketing communication. And we were constantly changing our way of talking. I mean, we still do to this day, based on the talks we have with our users. So have an open mind, change everything all the time. It's not a problem. So yeah, that would be maybe my advice.
I love that advice. Customers, definitely talk to them, because there's so much you don't know about yourself that you get from the customers. Like, you think, oh, this is why they went with us, when really, oh, actually these are our main points of differences. And I love what you said about, look, Facebook doesn't work, but you have to try it. So if it doesn't work, move on to the next thing, keep trying. I do find a lot of companies, sometimes they get like paralysis from analysis, where they're just planning for ages and they just don't get started with anything. So they don't properly test it out. And I think that's where they go wrong. And that's where, you know, their journey kind of slows down a little bit. My last question is a bit of a personal question that I love to ask of every guest. And it's really, what are you looking forward to in the future?
Well, just expanding the business, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, but not in a way to get more money into the company. Not in that way. Just getting more people working in the company, growing the company, get
Building an
new
empire.
features. Not really an empire, but you know, like getting more people involved, helping more
Yeah.
companies to expand. That's the whole thing that I'm looking forward to. Nothing more. Having as many problems with sending out so many text messages, that would be a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And
Fantastic. Tadej, thank you so much for being on the show today and talking to me. I think you've got some wonderful advice for some SaaS founders that are out there listening to this at the moment. Thank you so much for your time.
thank you for having me.